Clara's decision shocked everyone, from their closest friends to the media, who had watched their whirlwind romance unfold with awe. They were the perfect couple. He, a self-made millionaire who had built an empire, and she, a stunning designer with dreams as big as her ambition. Their wedding had been the event of the year. Daniel Westbrook was the kind of man who seemed to have it all. Born into modest beginnings, he had clawed his way to the top of the business world, turning a small tech startup into a multi-million-dollar empire. By the time he met Clara, he was already living a life most people could only dream of. Luxurious cars, private jets, an expansive mansion perched on a hilltop, and the admiration of both his peers and the public. His success was built on hard work, sharp intellect, and an unwavering commitment to his goals. But for all his material achievements, Daniel was a man who believed in love, in deep connections, and in the idea that one's true happiness couldn't be bought. Clara Hawthorne was a woman of remarkable beauty and intelligence, but her greatest asset was her ambition. Raised in a modest neighborhood, she had always dreamed of a life far beyond the limitations that her upbringing had imposed. From a young age, Clara knew that the world was full of opportunities, and if she was going to make a name for herself, she needed to be strategic, focused on the bigger picture. Her parents, though loving, had struggled to provide her with the kind of opportunities she craved. Clara attended a local school and was known for her sharp intellect, excelling in subjects that required creativity and problem-solving. It was her natural talent for design that set her apart, and it wasn't long before she earned a scholarship to a prestigious design school in the city. Clara's drive was relentless. While her peers were partying and enjoying their youth, she spent her free time building her career, networking with industry professionals, and refining her craft. By the time she graduated, she had already secured a job at one of the top design firms in the country. But Clara wasn't content with merely being successful. She wanted to be influential. She wanted to be at the top of her field. As her career progressed, Clara's taste for luxury grew. She began to surround herself with the best, attending exclusive events, driving high-end cars, and living in upscale apartments. She had mastered the art of creating the perfect image. She understood that in the world of fashion and design, perception was everything, and she knew how to cultivate a brand around herself. It was at one of these glamorous events that Clara met Daniel Westbrook. He was everything she thought she wanted: wealthy, successful, and powerful. But more than that, he was someone she could build a life with, a life full of comfort, status, and unspoken admiration from those around them. She knew she could learn a lot from him, and in return she could offer him her beauty, charm, and the crime was not one of violence or deceit in the typical sense, but rather one of emotional betrayal, an act that shattered the illusion of a perfect marriage and exposed the truth of Clara's motivations. Clara had married Daniel Westbrook the night before, in an opulent ceremony that had captivated the city. On the surface, it was the union of two successful people, each achieving their dreams and now ready to share their lives together. But the morning after, as the sun rose over their mansion, the reality of their relationship came crashing down. Clara's decision to leave Daniel wasn't just about her walking out. It was the way she did. In the days following Clara's abrupt departure, the world was left in shock. The tabloids and social media platforms were flooded with the story of the sudden, scandalous breakup. People couldn't comprehend how a woman could walk away from a millionaire husband, especially after such a lavish wedding. Clara became the subject of endless speculation, with some labeling her heartless, others calling her brave, and still others wondering if there had been more to the story than anyone could see. But for Daniel, the real trial had just begun. The emotional turmoil Daniel faced was exacerbated by the media frenzy. Every aspect of his life was examined, dissected, and turned into a headline. How could someone so successful, so admired, have fallen for such a heartless con? People began to question his judgment, wondering how he hadn't seen the signs, how he had missed the subtle clues that Clara's affections were not genuine. His reputation, once sterling, now had a stain that he couldn't seem to erase. Behind closed doors, Daniel was reeling. The sense of betrayal gnawed at him. Clara had been everything he thought he wanted, and yet, in the end, she had made him feel disposable. He tried to reach out to her, to ask for answers, But Clara had disappeared from his life as easily as she had entered it, leaving no trace but an echo of unanswered questions. No matter how hard he searched for closure, he couldn't find it. The trial, in a sense, was an internal one. Daniel had to grapple with the truth, that he had been emotionally manipulated into. For Daniel, the aftermath was marked by a period of deep reflection. He had trusted Clara with everything, his heart, his empire, his future, and in return, he had been left with a pile of broken expectations. Yet amidst the pain, there was also a realization. He had been so focused on building his empire, on achieving success, that he had neglected the one thing that truly mattered: emotional authenticity. He had been so blinded by the superficial allure of a perfect relationship that he had failed to see the cracks beneath the surface. But Daniel was not the kind of man to let this define him forever. With time, he began to pick up the pieces of his life. He sought therapy to process the betrayal, finding comfort in understanding that this was not a reflection of his worth, but rather a lesson in being more discerning in his personal relationships. He threw himself into his business, but also began to cultivate a new sense of self, one that was not reliant on external validation, not on the wealth he had accumulated, or the image he projected to the world. Daniel started to focus on building genuine connections, both in his personal life and professional endeavors. He became more selective in his circle of friends and began investing more in people who valued him for who he was, not what he had. Slowly, he found peace in this new chapter, understanding that the emotional betrayal Clara had inflicted on him, while painful, had forced him to confront his own vulnerabilities and desires. Meanwhile, Clara disappeared from the public eye entirely. She never returned to the life of luxury she had once envisioned with Daniel. Though some speculated that she had returned to her career in design, no one knew for sure where she went or what she was doing. The few who